One thing that comes up in every single accounting and bookkeeping engagement, without fail, all my years of experience doing this, never seen it not come up, is the issue of handling uncategorized expenses. We know this, we get this. There are going to be times when I look at a transaction and I can't determine based on the payee what the nature of the expense is. There's also a broader context here. I'll use the example of my interior design clients, where even though I might be able to tell from the name what account category it goes to, I still need the client's feedback in terms of whether it gets billed back to a client, and for that matter, which client it goes with. So for those reasons, we need to have a system in place to track uncategorized expenses. And in the past, we struggled with this because we'd email spreadsheets back and forth, the client would send it back piecemeal, and eventually it gets to a point where I don't know which ones I've already updated and which ones I haven't in the accounting software. So we have a great infrastructure here in Smartsheet that allows us to lay out a collaborative space such that I can create it in one place, the client goes in, we can both be in there at the same time even, and the client can be providing feedback in terms of explaining all of those things I laid out. Again, what account it goes to, which client it goes with, and whether or not it needs to get billed back. All in one place. And we can even set up alerts to notify me when the client has made the updates so that it's brought to my attention the minute a change has been made and I can get in there quickly, update the accounting software, mark it complete, and then move on. Now let's go see what this looks like. So we're going to show you how to handle a common problem that comes up with bookkeeping, which is the issue of uncategorized expenses. What happens as I'm entering transactions, I come across transactions with names of payees that I don't recognize, and it's not clear from the name what the nature of the expense is. So in the past, we would email spreadsheets back and forth with the clients to get that cleared up. And it's a pain in the neck, especially because a lot of times what happens is the client will clear up 2 or 3 of them and say, okay, I need to work on the other ones, but here's these back. And then they'll clear up a few more, and so we'll get several different revisions of that spreadsheet, and each time we have to go in and figure out which ones did I already fix and then update the ones that that they're sending us now. So it's been cumbersome to deal with that issue. Smartsheet provides us with an infrastructure that makes it much more seamless to do. I mentioned in the write-up that Google Sheets solves this problem in a similar fashion just because it's online and collaborative. But Smartsheet does it better, and here's why. I'm going to illustrate the why using an example from the prior section where we have to get statements from our client each month, right? So let's say the client doesn't get them for us. I can assign it to the client. Let's say Eric is the client. I can click down here and I can assign it to him. But let's say he doesn't get it for me. Then what I can do is I can send an update request. And what that looks like is, I'm going to delete the, I'll leave it in there. But we can create a new request. And I can say, send it to Eric. Subject, need B of A statements. Hey, can you upload these? Right, so Eric gets the request. I can also schedule this to go out on a recurring basis. I can say, you know what, now it's been 2 weeks, I still don't have it, he's not responding to me, it's time to be annoying. So I'm going to say weekdays only, and start it today, and send it out at 9 a.m. So it's going to send it out every weekday at 9 a.m. until he gets the request in. Very simple. I'm not going to actually send this to him. But then Eric gets an email which gives him a window into this line, which includes this paper clip which he can then click on, and he can drag and drop the files and they'll get uploaded to me. Then the next thing I do is I set up an alert. And I say, this one's already set up, so I'm just going to click in. But when you click new notification, see, it gives you all that same criteria. So I say, send all shared users, which is me and Eric at this point. Let us know right away when attachments or task completed changes. So I can click on this, and I can do anything. I can say when anything changes, let us know. But in this case, I thought it was important that I know when an attachment has been uploaded, so I know that it's time now to get that statement and go reconcile last month's bank statement. And then I want Eric to be notified when I've completed the task. So these notifications will both go to both of us, but this way everybody gets notified. And it goes back to what I said at the beginning of the course where I talked about how we want to make sure that we can complete these tasks with time and room to spare. And this is how you do it, by getting notified immediately when something changes or when something's been updated so that you can act on it immediately. So that ultimately I can make sure that I get last month's reconciliations done by the 8th of the month, which is exactly what I've prescribed here. Now let's see what this looks like like in the context of uncategorized expenses. So here's a sample report. In these cases, I have names, and you can tell that it would be clear from the names what the nature of these expenses are. But let's say that it wasn't that obvious, or that there were no names here because they were checks that were written and I don't have the payees, and I don't have access to the client's bank account to get images of the checks. Whatever the reason is, we're going to export this to a new worksheet in Excel. Make sure you check your advanced options, uncheck space between columns, and I happen to like having the printed report, the header in the, on screen. So I changed this option too. Once you make that change, you never have to again. So we're going to export this to Excel, and then there's one thing we need to do before we're ready to drop it into Smartsheet. Actually, a couple quick things. First of all, I don't need these rows, right? And I don't need this. But before I drop this in, remember what we learned already in previous lessons about the primary column. I want to think this through for a minute. What should be my primary column? If I paste it into a blank, and let's go create a blank now. So new blank sheet. And we're going to call this 2015 Uncategorized. Right, then we click in and we've got a blank sheet here. The first column is the primary column. I want to copy and paste that in here, but I don't want the type of transaction to be the primary column. I want that to be the name. So let's cut this, and we're going to insert cut cells so that my name is first. Everything else I don't care. And I'm not going to need the credit column or the balance. If I happen to have a report that's got debits and credits, then combine them into a single amount column. That's the best thing. I will keep the number because I might have check numbers in here that I need. I'll keep the memo. I don't need the adjustment column, and I don't need the clear column necessarily. And this we can just say paid from account, because that's essentially what this is. And the client's going to need to know that because they may need to go research this stuff, right? So they need to know if it came from iBank or if it was on a credit card. Now, keep in mind when you run a report like this and you have a split transaction, the debit side is really what's being split with the different expense accounts, which in this case is all going to be uncategorized anyway. It's the credit side you're concerned with because I'm either crediting a bank account because I'm taking money out, or I'm crediting a credit card because I put a charge on that credit card. And so in the case of the credit card, we need to know the credit account. In the case of a bank, we need to know the credit card account, what's being credited. So that way, you won't have to worry about the lines that say split because you can get both sides of the transaction. So you'll want to cut up the Excel report to make sure that this paid from account ultimately shows what bank or credit card account the expense is coming from. Once you get it cut up like this, we can Control-C to copy. I'm going to Alt-Tab right over here, and we're going to Control-V to paste right in. Now, I purposely pasted it in with these headers because now I can go and name my columns, right? So there's going to be name. This is going to be type. This is date. And of course, we should make it into a date type column. This is number. So that's where we'll find check numbers. Memo. And if you really want to be lazy, which I often like to be, you can copy that, double click, paste it in, right? And this is the amount. Except that you should spell it right because you'll look dumb in front of your clients if you don't. And then let's delete this column. I don't need this anymore. It was just so that I could see what was what when I named the columns. And then there's one other thing I like to do. Insert column right. Comments. This is where the client can come in and make comments to let me know what the nature of the expense is. Yes, they could use the discussions tab. And if you have a client who's fairly tech savvy, then you can certainly take the time to explain to them how this works. But I like to consider that, you know, my clients may be complete dummies when it comes to technology, and they may even be a little hesitant about using it. So I want to make this as easy as possible for them. So let's highlight this because I want to draw attention to it. I want to make sure it's clear this is where they go to communicate with me, right? And we can format this to make it look nice. We can make it into dollars. There's my formatting options, United States dollar. And sometimes what I'll do is, you know, by way of giving them instructions, I'll say, comment here and let me know what these are for. And then in parentheses, you can delete this comment. I have found it just to be so helpful to be so literal about these things, because especially if you're dealing with a client who's not real tech savvy, and I have those clients, we all do, then they may be overwhelmed already looking at this. So really you want to think in terms of how do I go to great lengths to make this as stupidly simple as possible. And they're going to appreciate that. I had a client who I turned on to this when they were the first client I used Smartsheet with, actually, when I first discovered Smartsheet and started realizing what I could do with it. And the client admitted to me, hey, I'm not that tech savvy, so go easy on me on that kind of stuff. And I said, all right, well, we'll try some things out. If it works, great. If not, don't be shy. Let me know, hey, Seth, this isn't going to work for me. When I sent him my project manager, which is kind of the first iteration of what became this here, he got back to me and said, no, very straightforward, very clear. I understood exactly what to do. Now, my friends, all you have to do is share this with the client. And you can do that by clicking sharing. You can add a collaborator if they're not already in here. You enter their email, you put in a subject, and you write a message explaining, hey, these are the transactions I need your help with. Can you please click over, come in here, and clean them up? And, of course, what we're going to do is we're going to set up those alerts again, where I'm going to say, you know what, let me know immediately when something changes. So this time I just need to know right away when anything changes. I want to know about anything. And that's that. So the second Eric comes in here and makes a change, makes an update, and says, hey, this is for repairs and maintenance. It's an auto parts store. Then I'll get notified by email so I can know right away. And of course, if I have a bookkeeper who's doing the work for me on this client, then they're going to be in here as a collaborator, and I'm going to make sure they get notified right away. Because ultimately, if I'm running the show, I want to be out of it. I want to be in the know, so I want to be included on these notifications. So this way I know, okay, my bookkeeper's got this. Jeff's got this. Jeff is one of my bookkeepers. I love the guy. I can say, Jeff's got this. I know he's getting the notification. Great. I know it's being handled. And it gives me that peace of mind that comes with knowing that it's all being handled, so that I know I'm going to be able to complete my projects with time and room to spare. As always, if you have any questions, please post them in the answers forum if you're a registered student with schoolofbookkeeping.com. If not, take advantage of our public forums. And as always, I will try to get to them as quickly and as often as I possibly can. I hope you got something out of this lesson. I hope you learned something. Please provide me with your feedback, and I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson. Now I've shown you how to create a solution that should solve a lot of problems and save you a whole lot of time, as well as back and forth emails in your inbox. The next thing we're going to want to do is something you're going to be able to come back and apply to what you've just seen, which is how to apply conditional formatting in a Smartsheet project. And this, as you'll see, is something that enables you to see in a very visual way, very clearly, as an example, things that have been completed versus things that haven't.